On tonight's show, we'll go over all 30 Major League bullpen situations with the guru from Closer Monkey, Greg Jewett. That's all coming up next on Beat the Shift. And welcome to another episode of the Beat the Shift podcast. This is your host, Ariel Cohen, and with me, as always, is Ruvain Guy. What's up, Ruvain?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Well, my voice struggles continue. I was better yesterday, but it got worse today. That's also because I coached my son's high school baseball team. It's cool. I've gone back to my coaching days for this year and next year. To my son's a junior, so coaching out the rest of the year. It's going to be a good team, I think. So, but lost my voice again.
Yeah, maybe you should see some professional help.
About the throat, right?
Some professional help, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for that great advice, Mr. Dr.
No problem.
Rubin.
No problem. That's
All
what
right.
I'm here for.
Anyways, we got a great show today and a very useful show. Many of us play in leagues that require saves and relief pitchers, and there's nobody better in the industry to get on the show. Greg Jewett, what's going on? How are you?
It's too kind of an intro. I'm all right, thank you, and hope both of you are well.
So before we start, just tell everybody where we can see your stuff. We know you got Closer Monkey, we got reliever Recon. Why don't you just tell us about everything?
All right. Well, Closer Monkey. I took over that site. This will be my third year. We do daily emails once the season gets rolling. You can sign up for those on Substack for free. We also offer, if you don't like clicking through all of those Google ads and things of that nature, we offer a premium subscription that also goes through Substack. That's ad-free. Reliever Recon is a little more intense. It's more NFBC centric or focused, and it's also for leagues where guys can stream the long relievers game by game. We have a guy who specializes in identifying all those guys to try and get those vulture wins in head-to-head leagues. And then I also do a weekly column for The Athletic. Once the season gets rolling, I have 2 more preseason articles coming up for them. And once the baseball season begins, I get one little respite once every other week. I do a lineups column for Baseball HQ, so that's a nice way. That's my one little break. I get to actually look at hitters for a change, so I like it.
Awesome. All right, so we are going to put you to task here and to help us and our listeners navigate the relief pitcher landscape. So we're going to do a little bit of strategy, and then we'll talk about all of the closer situations around the majors. First of all, the closer landscape for 2026. We've been playing some NFBC auctions, and I got to tell you, if you want a closer, you've got to pay up. I mean, to get Mason Miller in one of these auctions, he's like $26, almost $27. I mean, Edwin Diaz, $24, $25. You got to pay up. Ruben and I were doing one auction, and David Bednar, who's, 8th on our list, I mean, I think we had to pay $20 or $21 to get him. Basically, I see it as a situation where the super elites are just being paid an exorbitant price because the second tier is just not very reliable. Usually there's a little bit more reliability, a little bit more stability, but it just isn't. Just not good pitchers, situations unknown, and forget about the third the third tier. That we don't even know at all, and then you're going to get Rockies and you're going to have Athletics and who knows what, and we don't even want to buy them. So that just pushes up prices. So to me, playing the closer landscape, if you want a closer, you got to pay up. And maybe you should, and we'll ask you if you think that's a good idea. Otherwise, you're taking darts on some middle guys with a lot of risk. Is that what you see here, Greg, as well?
Yeah, it's almost, and when you're listening to a lot of other people talking, it's like you almost have to use mono league prices on closers for what you're paying for in mixed leagues now for the upper tier. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, if you look at some of the labor auctions from the weekends, the prices you're quoting is what the closers were going in an AL and an NL only. So it's a unique thing. But on the flip side of that, I could make the case against 15 of the perceived 30 closers, if that's even a term anymore, because there's so many potentials for committees, matchup based approaches. We've got there's multiple first year managers. We've got guys as their first year with a new team. I mean, there's so many variables this year. If the reason those guys are priced up is because at least you know what their role is on opening day, where you can make the case that 1/3 of the league on opening day, we may not be able to predict who's going to get the save if it's reliant on the lineup construction that comes up in the ninth inning.
What do you think, Ruvain?
I'm seeing basically the same thing, and we've actually been having to pay up because we don't want to get stuck with a middling guy. We want a guy that we know definitely has a job, and to do that, sometimes you just have to be the first one to grab the first closer that goes out on auction, because that may be the cheapest, because you don't know where the prices are going to go. Sometimes the room is hot, sometimes the room is cold, and when you're in a snake draft, if you're the first one, don't be shy about being the first one. There's no reason about being because they're going so expensive. You don't their value is just above and beyond what they should be relative to the rest of your team.
Do you agree, Greg, that you should be paying up for one elite closer right now?
Well, I think part of it is how somebody's comfortable constructing their team. If you don't want to be trying to chase them on the waiver wire, or knowing your league setup. I mean, if we're thinking usually in a 15-teamer like NFBC, I'm saying you're probably going to want to get at least 65 saves to be competitive in your league in that category. So if you've got one anchor or a guy that, I'm going to pay up for Mason Miller, so I know I'm getting my 33 potential saves for the Padres with a bucket full of strikeouts and good ratios, and I can sleep at night. Or are you going to try and live in the I'm never paying for saves and try and cobble things together with Griffin Jacks and other people that might have good ratios, but we don't know what their role is going to be over the course of the season. So I think you can make the case to pay for them, and I know some people won't, but I think even the oldest people that were always like, I'm never going to pay for saves, I think this year they're moving towards I'm going to go get one of those guys. And that's why auction prices are hard, because you said when it gets hot, you don't know if David Bednar in that situation you're describing was like the last reliable closer that was available, that's going to push the price up if he's the last one kind of going there. So getting the first one, and James Anderson and Frank Stanfield were talking about that on Labor over the weekend, saying that they kind of went aggressive at closer early, and just for that reason, they paid for their guys, and then they just kind of set the baseline for the auction, and then everything goes from there. But at least you know what you've spent, and you can plan accordingly for the rest of the auction.
Is there anybody worthwhile to draft in the middle, a second tier closer, you think?
Where are you putting the middle tier?
Well, let's say after like David Bednar, we're talking like I'm not going to include Hader because he's an injury issue.
I'm nervous. I'm more nervous about Hader than other people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't trust shoulders.
Me too.
And Ruvain can speak about that more. But
I agree.
Like, it's a bicep, but that's still the same kinetic chain. I just get nervous about all those things. I don't know. And his price really hasn't even gone down that much. And,
a little bit.
And I think a little, but not a lot. And I think what people are overlooking was last year he had seven multiple inning appearances, and the last time that he made it, he pitched 2 innings against the Yankees, and then that was his last outing of the season last year. I think Espada used him too much and too often. There wasn't enough rest in between those 2 inning appearances, and I think they wore him down. And there was a reason the Hader rules were about. It was to A, keep him fresh, and B, to make sure that he could get the paycheck he got from Houston before breaking down. And look where we're heading right now. So I think Jeff Hoffman can bounce back. I know he had the homeritis last year. I think he kind of solved things, and even though he wasn't throwing at high velocity in the playoffs, he only gave up 1 home run. I mean, everybody was in love with Louis Varland and saying he's going to possibly replace him, but Varland gave up 4 home runs last year in the playoffs. So I think Hoffman's kind of stealthy in that area, in that second tier. I really don't mind him. Plus, if he gets a little better strikeout rate, I think there's room for profit with him. I'm comfortable with a few people, and we'll cover them as we come through here. But
Yeah, yeah,
that's one name that kind of like if I missed out on that first group, I'd be okay getting Hoffman. And I don't want people to get alarmed because today the ball is flying in Arizona. Was it Gore couldn't make it out of the first inning? Pagan gave up 3 home runs in his outing, but it's like a 15-mile-per-hour wind blowing straight out in a couple of those parks. So take it with a grain of salt today when you see some of the inflated scores in Arizona.
Greg, you mentioned the fact that a lot of situations are up in the air, and you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
spring training. What should we learn from spring training? Should we learn what's going on when the managers are pitching the closers? Because usually the closers go like the fourth, fifth inning because they want to get against the top tier guys, not the bottom guys. Can we learn anything from the placement of the managers from where they're putting their closers?
Well, usually the somebody that's in the running for closer is going to pitch at the fifth inning before at this point. So that's when the starters are still in the game. So once the the rookies and the prospects start coming in, that's when you're normally not seeing the closers out there. Some teams like to bring the closer in like the third inning as like the first guy out. Some teams prefer to do it in the fifth inning, so it's more like later in the game in the regular season. That's kind of a team by team basis. And again, like I said, with so many new managers, it's hard to tell. What I'm really focused on is, are they facing major league hitters? Their K to BB. I track strike percentage very religiously during the spring. I just want to see what the command is like. And I've been keeping track of the swinging strike percentages using the whiffs from the StatCast boxes. So, on reliever Recon, I put up the box when I do the recap the next day. I've been keeping individual spreadsheets of all of all the bullpens. So I've been tracking all those variables on a bunch of pitchers. So like Arizona, I'm tracking like 5, whereas Kansas City, I'm only tracking 1 right now. But we'll see what happens with him, and I'm sure we'll be talking about Mr. Estevez later.
Ruvain, what about the idea of double tapping top closers? So, you're picking an Edwin Diaz and you come right back and pick a David Bednar.
I'm not thrilled with that idea only because it takes up so much of your draft capital and your auction money, whatever form of draft you're doing. Doing that, when you do that, it's like basically you're buying a $40 pitcher. If you want to do that, that's perfectly fine. If you can construct your roster accordingly, but you may be deficient in other areas of your team just because you're spending so much draft capital. If the middle tier of closers they're going for $15, $16, and you get 2 of them, and then you see there's inflation in the room, and all of a sudden you're paying $17, $18 for them, then that's close to $36 to $40 that you're going to be spending on, or $35 to $40 you're spending on these guys. And yes, most of the guys that you're going to pick in the middle, their jobs are quote unquote secure, but that doesn't mean that they're going to have the job for the entire season. That doesn't mean they're going to have the most saves in that team's bullpen. So I'm a little hesitant to do that. I'd rather go for a guy at top and go for a lot of darts at the end.
No, Greg, is that a strategy for you?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing in TGFBI. It struck me as funny because I don't really engage in the group chats when I'm doing one of those drafts, but the room was shocked with the closer prices, and I was kind of amazed because I think it's been pretty transparent that if you want a closer in an NFBC draft, you're going to have to either spend up or you're going to be just shooting the darts like Ruvain was just speaking about. So, you can have a plan. A lot of it depends on where you are, and I think main events start this weekend. I mean, don't be surprised. You're going to see not only is Mason Miller going for $26 in an auction, he's probably going to go around pick 26 in main events because you don't want to get
I just
caught
picked Diaz at pick 27.
You don't want to get caught at the
TGFBI.
wrong end on a run there, and then you're talking about, okay, am I getting this guy that might get saves, or am I getting this guy that could give me saves but might blow up my ratios? I mean, there's so many things that go into it, more than just the save itself. That it's going to be a very busy year for me. I have a strong feeling.
So I wanted to ask before we go to the specific situations, are there any middle relievers, let's say non-frontline closers, that you think might be able to break out this year, either for saves or even just really good skills?
He's very good, but people seem to forget about how good Garrett Whitlock is. And, you know, I love what Aroldis Chapman has done since he's left the Yankees. He's improved his command, but he's going to be 38. I mean, I know he keeps himself in terrific shape. We've got some aging closers, and I know we feel everything is reliable, but I would be surprised if Whitlock doesn't get at least 7 saves, which I've projected him for, and he could even push up to double digits given the right situations and how sometimes the Red Sox will use Chapman against the best left-handed lineup pocket in a very close game. I'm trying to look at some other guys here a little bit on the radar. I mean, a couple of them are injury things like, AJ Puck, Ben Joyce, but again, the deeper your league, the more valuable those guys are because you can kind of sit on them if there's an IL spot. It's hard to just say that's going to be my thing. I'm intrigued by Luinder Avila of the Kansas City Royals. I know they've talked about putting him into the rotation, but I think there's a chance if Estevez's home run issues carry over to the regular season and his velocity doesn't rebound, he could eventually be in play in that bullpen, although Alex Lang is hanging out there too, which would be a terrific irony if he ended up getting himself back into save situations. Those are a couple that come out. I'm really intrigued, and I hope Ruvain can maybe speak to it too, is Drew Smith used to be pretty decent for the Mets. I know we always thought there was that breakout year, and then he kind of fell back, and then the injury. That Washington bullpen to me is ripe for the picking, so I think he's somebody in there that you want to keep an eye on how he progresses this spring. And I really like Matt Swanson of the Cardinals. I think he has a better skill set than Riley O'Brien, who NFBC is kind of anointed to be who they think is going to be the Cardinals' primary save share. But I think Swanson is somebody that could usurp him at some point this year and take over the right-handed primary role and share him with Romero till they can trade him.
All right, Ruvain, before we do the situations, any other questions to get at Greg?
No, I think that's it. I think the one thing that you mentioned about players coming back from injury, a lot of these injuries that players are coming back, whether it's shoulder, whether it's elbow, one of the last things that they come back from and that comes back to them is control. And if you don't have control, you're not going to be put in a high leverage situation. So that's just something to watch for during the course of the spring.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to go around the majors and talk about situations. I think for each, we're going to talk about who is worth drafting. And I think we're going to focus right now on 12 to 15 team mixed leagues. Mono leagues, you're going to be drafting a lot of these guys, but let's focus on 12 to 15 team mixed. Mm-hmm. How we think the saves will break down. Anything else? We might go very quickly with some situations. We might go a little bit slower on the others, but depends on the situation. So before we do that, though, we've got an Injury Gurus trivia of the week.
So the division we're going to start with first is the AL East, and this may give it away, but there are only 3 closers last year that had more than 20 saves and an ERA over 4 last year. Who were they? 3 closers last year.
Do I get to go first because Greg is the expert?
Sure, but let me repeat it. 3 closers who last year had more than 20 saves and an ERA over 4. Ariel?
Okay, Jeff Hoffman.
Jeff Hoffman is one of them. Yes, he had 33 saves in an ERA of 4.37.
Okay,
Greg?
you go next, Greg.
Well, I know you. I feel like you want me to say Devin Williams, but I don't think he got to 20.
No, he did not, and no, he did not.
All right, let me think here. 20 saves and an ERA over 4. Oh, see, I'm so wired onto this year that I'm expunging last year.
Well, to give a hint, we are doing the AL
Estevez
East.
should have had an ERA over 4, but
Yeah, well, that's
his Sierra was, but yeah, we can't judge him on that.
If we're talking about the AL East now, does that help you? Of closers who are going to be this year.
I'm going to go with David Bednar.
David Bednar, no, his ERA was not over 4. But Ryan Helsley, he had 21 saves.
Yeah. Yep.
His ERA was 4.5, and Tanner Scott had 23 saves at 4.74. Now the question is, we're gonna talk about the AL East, and of two of those guys, they're currently closers And you mentioned a third closer in the AL East who you thought could have a high ERA like with David Bednar. Let's start with Baltimore and Ryan Helsley. How confident are you in him bouncing back this year? Do you think that he's going to be the guy for the majority of the year? Is he in your quote unquote circle of trust?
He is. I like that he's adding the splitter and he's been using it. It's one thing where I feel like every year haters like, oh, I'm going to use the changeup more, and then he uses it like 3% of the time. But Helsley's been working with the pitching coaches in Baltimore. He's adopted that pitch. I think he's doing it to help out with his splits versus lefties. So I'm okay. Helsley, he don't judge his velocity in spring, because 2 years ago he didn't ramp it up early because he wanted to try and stay healthy for the whole season, so he doesn't go full bore. But he's doing his strike percentage has been strong this spring. He's getting a few whiffs, and I think he's really trying to work that pitch into his arsenal. So I am okay. I think Baltimore will be a good landing spot for Helsley.
All right. Is there anybody else who's worth drafting? I mean, not really. Kittredge, Aiken, nah.
Well, he's got a sore shoulder right now.
He's
but
hurt.
Ooh.
I would say only in, like, if you're in a draft and hold, I wouldn't mind having Tyler Wells, because he might get you some vulture wins and some like 2 or 3 inning saves at some point during the season. So I think he's a guy that, like, in a week where you have some tough matchups, you could stream him in that sort of a format, or in leagues that have the spark if he gets that eligibility. But yeah, it's pretty much Helsley. I know Felix is starting to like throw a little bit, but that's way down the road.
And that's very interesting, because at First Pitch Arizona, you did a presentation where you talked about the whole circle of trust, and I actually raised my hand and I said Ryan Helsley, and everybody, it was like, the room was like 50-50. If you remember, the room was like 50-50 what they were going to say about him. So the fact that now there's really no competition, really, and the fact that he is a quote unquote known commodity, except for the end of last year, I guess he is in the circle of trust.
Yes, I'm putting him in.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess he is. And his price is not crazy.
No, it's not.
Okay, moving on to the Red Sox. I think you covered it sort of. And Chapman is the guy, but he's getting older. I think you said Whitlock, 7 saves. You're projecting. ATC right now has 4. But 7 does sound interesting, Maybe Chapman just, they slow him down a little bit. No reason to think he's not the guy.
Oh, no. Chapman's the guy. I just think Whitlock is Whitlock is a great pitcher for those that play save plus holds. Like, I got him at pick like 300 in my tout draft for the Solds League.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I was like, that's a steal. That was criminal, because he's got good strikeouts, good
I think
ratios.
it's criminal that they let you play in this league. You shouldn't be playing. You should be barred from it, Greg.
I asked into it because I wanted to be in the league with Sold, so at least I had something tangible.
Did you ask
to write
into
about.
it because you wanted to get out of playing against me in Tout Wars?
There it is. You got me.
That's not true. You did win the league like 2 years ago, right?
Yes.
Well, I won it last year, so thanks for leaving, by the way.
My pleasure.
All right. So that's the Boston. The Yankees. I mean, I guess it's David Bednar. There are some, former closers like Duvall and stuff, but Bednar is the guy. The only thing is, Bednar was in the minors last year briefly.
Yeah. Everyone seems to forget about that. Now, he did finish strong, and I think he liked pitching in New York, and he's pitching for a contract, so obviously he's super motivated no matter how you feel about the lockout next year. So, yes, I think Bednar enjoyed the atmosphere in New York, and I think he'll be fine. I just, he can be streaky, and the Yankees have to monitor. The only thing that really worries me about that Yankee bullpen is it could be shaky getting him sometimes. Fernando Cruz can strike out the side, and he can also walk the bases loaded. Doval, same thing. There's days where he's lights out, and there's days where we don't know where the pitches are going. So there's a lack of depth in that bullpen, at least quality relievers to get to Bednar, and I think that could be where teams will be able to maybe exploit some weaknesses in the Yankees the way that they're currently constructed. And that's why I think people keep making the Carlos LaGrange and Dylan Betances comparison, because if Doval and or Cruz get hurt or struggle, then they're going to be forced to put that kid into the bullpen to stabilize some of those innings. And I think he could do very well in that.
Yeah. And the fact that they have three, or they have two closers, and Fernando Cruz could have the best stuff. If you had to choose between Cruz and Doval as like a middle relief guy to have on your bench, you prefer Doval or you prefer Cruz?
I think they would probably go with Doval just because he's done it before. Whereas, Cruz he's never really been a ninth inning guy. Like Doval, he's very streaky. There's times where he looks unhittable, and there's times where you don't know where a pitch is going. That's the biggest struggle with him. Just think about last year when he took the job away from Walker, had a great stretch, and then he did so poorly that they decided it was time to move on from him.
All right, but circle of trust for Bednar.
For now, he's in.
Okay. All right, Tampa situation. Well, we know Tampa likes to play games. ATC's got 14 saves for Griffin Jacks, 12 saves for Edwin. How do you pronounce his last name? Is it Ucheda? Uceda. Edwin Uceda, 12, although he's injured. Garrett Clevenger, 8. Tampa, so the ball boy has 2 saves as well. I've heard a lot of helium for Griffin Jacks lately. He's going, I think, ridiculously early right now. But
yeah, he's up into, in the draft champions, he's moved up into like the between 130 and 150 depending on the drafts. I mean, that's a precipitous rise from where he was going post 200 before the new year. He's grabbed a lot of helium, and I know he's on Team USA. The only thing that worries me is there's been quotes from Cash about how he's going to play matchups. And one of the beat writers spoke about how in 2022 there were 5 Rays relievers with at least 5 saves and none had 10. So if you get something like that, then this bullpen becomes almost unusable with the exception of Clevenger, because at least with Clevenger I can predict, like when they're playing a series against a team that has like Juan Soto, then I know if Juan Soto's batting in the ninth, Clevenger is going to get the ball. If that makes sense. So like when you see teams that have that strong left-handed hitting lean, you can get them into your lineup. But if this becomes something where Baker's in there getting saves too, which they have talked about, they've mentioned the 3 you've talked about and Baker being involved. We don't know
Ryan
how
Baker.
It's all going to shake out, but it's just a matter of, so like if you want to take a round 30 flyer on your walk-off pick, you can take Baker, and if he's not involved in the first couple of weeks, you can drop him. But if he picks up a cheap save, then you've got somebody there that at least you can stream when the situations are correct.
Ruvain, what is Edwin Ucheda's injury status?
Barking shoulder.
I actually have him for my thing. Here we go. He's unlikely to be ready for opening day. The pitching coach Kyle Snyder said that Uceda, who's still limited to just playing catches, probably still another couple of weeks away from getting back on the mound. So he had an MRI for his shoulder. It showed inflammation. It showed impingement. The fact that he's still a couple weeks from getting on the mound means, for me, it means that he's not going to be built up yet. He may miss all of April. That's very possible. So just be aware of that when you draft him.
Any of these guys, who should we be drafting in 12 to 15 team mixed? Obviously Jax, although we think that the price is too high for him, right? Agreed?
Yeah, he had really bad luck with BABIP last year. I mean, that's not going to repeat. And again, I was very high on Jax last year. So there's if they would use him like they did Fairbanks, then he's a bargain. We don't know what Cash is going to do. That's the X factor in all of this. Like I said, Griffin Jacks as a pitcher is fantastic, and I have no issue with him. It's just I think right now we're wish casting him to get 16 or more saves. I don't know that that's a guarantee. Could he do it? Absolutely, but there's nothing from Cash saying that he's my guy.
Right. Is it worth drafting? Again, it's Edwin Uceda.
I probably wouldn't draft him in a redraft right now. I would wait and see how his buildup goes. I mean, until he does a bullpen, we have no idea what his timeline is, and that's why Hader is frustrating, because now it's like, well, he's going to do a bullpen next week. We'll see.
We got to pronounce the guys correctly. It's funny we don't talk about it on this show, but so many people pronounce my name incorrectly.
I know, I do it too. I know.
It's pronounced Ariel Cohen. A lot of people go Ariel. It's actually not. It's actually Ariel.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But I don't even notice it anymore. So many people, say different things. We should be pronouncing people's names like they want, right?
Yes, I do my best, and when I'm watching the games, I try and listen to how the home team announcer says it, because that usually gives you the best clue.
Exactly. All right, let's go to Toronto to finish off the AL East, and I think it's Jeff Hoffman, or wait a minute, is it Jimmy Garcia?
It is Jimmy, yes.
Jimmy. Yeah, it could be Jimmy Garcia. You got Louis Varland, who actually comes in a lot for some decent situations. And you got Tyler Rogers, who pitched briefly for the Mets, who comes in, although probably not a save candidate, but you never know, the occasional save. I mean, to me, Jeff Hoffman is the guy owning, and you seem to have some praise for him next year this year to get back to true form. Certainly, I think he is a good shot at getting 25 to 30 saves as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we have to speak too much about that. Cut down those home runs and get a few of the strikeouts back, and I think he can get right back on track. I mean, for 2 years in Philadelphia, we were clamoring for him to get save chances. Then he got the job, and I think it was a little learning on the fly. It is different when you graduate from being the highest leverage guy in the 8th inning to doing the 9th.
So he's a guy that's going below the top tier, but yet we think he's sort of stable. So to me, that's actually interesting to pick him.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason his ADP was depressed because after the World Series, the general manager was saying, well, maybe we'll look at that position. And then they signed setup guys. They didn't go shopping at the top end of the closer market to replace him. So, yeah, I think he's pretty stable in his spot.
Well, Jeff Hoffman got him there. He helped him get to the World Series, and he plays for a good team. I mean, those are ingredients of a closer that you want. And the fact that they didn't sign any top guys, it means he has even more job security. So, there's of the mid-tier guys, for me, he's one of the top guys just because of those three things.
Okay, let's move on to the AL Central. The White Sox have signed Sir Anthony Dominguez. I think Jordan Lazier actually has some pretty good skills. I've drafted him in a couple of drafting holds, to be honest. Who's worth drafting to you from the bullpen in 12 to 15 team mix?
Actually, I'm a Grant Taylor guy. I know they're talking about moving him to the rotation next year. There's two ways, at least, that Grant Taylor can give me value if I take him as a second or third reliever. If they do try and stretch him out and give him more innings, and that gives me more strikeouts and potential for pretty good ratios in the weeks I stream him in there. And if he picks up an ancillary save here and there, I'm happy. Or Sir Anthony Dominguez continues struggling against left-handers. He had a 1.70 whip against left-handers last year. I mean, that's shaky. So, I think there's a lot of Phillies fans that can tell you about how it is to have Sir Anthony be your closer. So I know Leisure had that little bit of he had a really strong finish, but I think skills-wise, to me, I think Taylor's a step ahead of him if they had to make a change. I think they'll give Sir Anthony leash, but if he struggles during the season, then I think Taylor could emerge here and be a pretty good second closer if that's the case.
And Grant Taylor is interesting because if you look what he's doing so far in spring, his velocity has gone from last year was 98.7 on his fastball. It's at 99.2 right now for his fastball. You throw that in with a 90-mile-an-hour slider, that's a recipe for a strikeout pitcher. That's a recipe for a closer.
Yes. So, like I said, I know they've spoken about they'd like to see what he could do as a starter, and he's been trying to work on a third pitch. But at the same token, if he becomes so good at closing out games, they might just decide to leave him there, a la Mason Miller.
Ruvain, what is your fastball now up to?
My fastball is not that great. I have an issue with my shoulder. I'm a lefty. I have an issue with my shoulder, so I'm probably in the low to mid 30s right now. That's how bad it is. But my son is in the low 70s, so I guess that's something.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Is his team playing my kid's team this year?
The schedule hasn't come out yet, so I don't know, but we'll see.
Different conference in the same, different division in the same conference or something like that. I don't know. You're in the
Correct.
West and we're in the East or something like
Correct.
that.
Correct.
Okay. We'll see about that. Yes, to remind the listeners, I think your son pitched one at bat against my son and got him to ground out the second or something like that.
Yes, he did. And now he's a junior, so he's going to be one of the top starters on the team. So,
Ooh,
we'll see how that works out.
sounds good. All right. The question for you, Greg, is in Cleveland. How would you say over under 1 inning pitched for the rest of his career for Emmanuel Clase?
Under.
Ruvain?
Agreed. Under.
Yeah.
He may get banned from baseball completely. That's
Correct.
not out of the question. So that's why it's under.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty big offense to sort of throw balls in the dirt on purpose at a baseball game. Different than being like a sexual offender. That's not a baseball. I mean, sorry. I should.
I know. I know.
Sorry,
I giggle because I'm like, it's sad but true.
Let me rephrase that. I guess a sexual offender is worse than throwing a ball in the dirt in baseball.
They're both crimes.
Yes,
and they're illegal, and they should be punished for that.
For baseball, though, you cannot throw. I mean, it's not worse, but you know what I'm trying to say. That you can't play
I think
baseball.
what you're trying to say is he was making millions of dollars and was trying to make 10 grand throwing a ball in the dirt, and I can't wrap my brain around that.
Yeah, I don't understand that. An extra 10,000 made no sense. But all right, anyways, so forget about him. Cade Smith is the man, circle of trust guy. He's definitely got to be a top 3 or 4 closer, right?
Yeah, and he's being treated as such. The funny thing was we were always like, man, Clase's so good, but what if he could get more strikeouts? Well, guess what? That's Cade Smith. He is streaky. I will say he's streaky. Just, there's going to be a weekend where he blows up a couple of games just because there was people last year that like rage dropped him when he had that. There was 1 or 2 game stretch, and luckily in the Discord at Recon, I told the guy, I'm like, stick with him, and then he ended up doing very well in his playoffs because he didn't drop him. And I mean, but people do that. They add the guy and they think he's going to be this great closer. He has a dust up or two because he's getting his feet under him in the position. And then you drop him, and then you look back a week later and you're like, what? He saved 3 games? So, patience would be required, but he was very, very good for the better part of August to the end of the season, helping Cleveland get into the playoffs.
And the question is who's number 2, because Hunter Gaddis right now is listed as number 2, but he left the spring game with forearm tightness.
Yes.
He had an MRI done. The MRI came back negative, but there's no timetable right now for his return. There's no timetable for even a throwing program. So who would be number 2 on the pecking order there?
It'd be Armstrong, and then Trevor Stephan, if he's healthy, can end up being the guy that replaces Armstrong in the 7th until Gaddis can return. But Cleveland has a decent amount of prospects also. They really like that Peyton Payette kid that they took in the Rule 5 thing. So, they always find a way to stock that bullpen. So you just kind of have to trust the organization.
I mean, didn't you once have a bet with Steve Gardner, and you said something like over 3 at-bats for Tim Tebow?
Yes, I did, and I actually took the over because I thought the Mets were going to be bad that year, and I was wrong.
All right. Moving on to Detroit. They've got a lot of talent there, or at least former closers. Kenley Jansen, who I have to imagine is going to be the guy because he's been the guy. Whether he breaks down, I don't know. Whether he gets a little bit off, I don't know. But Detroit also has Will Vest, who's pretty competent, and Kyle Finnegan, who obviously has been the man in Washington for a couple years. They also have Tyler Holton, who's not bad as well. How do you think this situation shakes out for you? And would you take anybody? I mean, Jansen you're taking. Would you take Vest or anybody else in a 15-team mix?
As of today, not really. I mean, I kind of am in the same boat with you. I had the numbers distributed somewhat differently, but those 3 guys are all in the mix. I think there was a really good tweet from Elias saying that the Tigers will be the first team on opening day to have 3 relievers that had 20 or more saves the season prior in the same bullpen.
Wow.
So there's a fun little question for you, but yeah, I know Jansen's trying to get. I think he needs 24 saves to reach a magical number, so maybe Detroit will help him get there. I know they're trying to help him early in the year to catch Lee Smith on the all-time list. I think Jansen could fall out of bed and throw cutters over the plate, so I think they just wanted some stability, at least in the 9th inning when they want to call on him. There'll be times he doesn't, and you can't get frustrated. But I think he's the primary save share. Is that the best way to say it? Rather than I know Jeff Erickson likes to say capital C closer, but we'll say this is a primary save share. But yes.
Is this a spot where you could do a handcuff situation where you go with Kenley and you go with Will Vest at the same time?
I'd like to say that, but you never know because then it could be Finnegan or, they only use Holton really on a rare occasion against lefties. It's more of if the other guys need rest. And now with three of them in there, it kind of depresses Holton's value just a smidge. So that's kind of the factor there. I don't really, when it gets this messy, I don't know that if there's two handcuffs, it's hard to say there's one. That's the tough
True.
part. And Will Vest does not look sharp this spring, but of course it is spring, but he's given up a lot of hits. That's just, I don't know if he's working on a new pitch or doing different sequencing, but he's been getting hit around.
But last year down the stretch, the Tigers seemed to lean on Will Vest a little bit more than Finnegan as the actual quote unquote closer or the
Well,
capital C.
yes. Well, Finnegan was out for a little bit with the injury, and then Vest
Right.
kind of took over. But yes, in the playoffs. But the thing was, in the playoffs, Vest only had one save. He was the highest leverage guy. So, I think they want to be able to put Vest in wherever they want. So I think there's times he's going to get a save, but there's going to be times he's in the seventh inning, getting him out of a tight situation. That's going to be the toughest part there.
Okay, Kansas City Royals. Carlos Estevez, probably the guy. ATC has him projected for 32 saves. What are you doing in this situation?
I'm letting somebody else figure it out.
Ah,
I want nothing to do with Estevez this year. Last year I advocated for him, so that's the hardest thing about covering closers. Last year I said, yeah, go get Estevez. This year, I know we can't overblow velocity, but when your fastball is showing up as a changeup on StatCast, we've got something going on. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's really just, easing into things. I'm curious to see if it'll tick up at all in the WBC. Maybe the juices get flowing, but his fastball velocity has been going down the last 2 years, but below 90 is not good. That's a red flag, especially when they moved all the fences in and he's a fly ball pitcher.
Yeah, right now it's at spring training, it's sitting at 89, and last year's averaging close to 96. So that is a very big difference. This is not a Zach Greinke type decrease in velocity. This is like a significant decrease in velocity.
Yeah. And if you look on Brooks Baseball, he's averaging 86 with the four seam.
Wow.
Yeah.
okay. So don't draft Estevez.
Well, you can draft him if you want saves, but I don't know what just look at his Sierra last year. That might be the sneak preview.
I mean, are we drafting Ursig and saying, you know what? Haha, we'll get a free Ursig?
It could be. It would be the complete role reversal of last year. Remember, last year everybody wanted it to be Ursig and it was Estevez. This year could be the exact opposite.
Tables have turned there. All right, Minnesota. Oh my goodness. What do we got?
They're so bad.
Yeah, I mean they're bad teams, so they're not going to have that many wins. But Taylor Rogers, who is a lefty, is it Justin?
He's throwing about the same speed as Ruvain's son.
Which is not saying that much.
Cody Funderbar.
That's not a shot at your son.
What are we doing here in Minnesota?
Minnesota, you're not doing anything. You're waiting to see if they convert David Festa into a reliever when he comes back from his shoulder impingement.
All right.
Just like they did with Duran. They couldn't keep Duran healthy as a starter, and Festa's been kind of in the same boat. I will say that they're hoping Liam Hendriks can do something. I don't know. He did touch 95, but he really needs to be at 96 or higher to be effective when you look at his breakdown of results by velocity. So I don't know. Well, they want Hendriks. They want Hendriks to try and get them like some saves early in the season. I just don't know if he's going to be able to do it. Now, his first outing was encouraging, but so was his one for Boston last year.
So if you want to take a dart on a Minnesota closer in round 29, who would you put your money on?
I would just take Hendriks because at least it's binary. If he's closing games at the beginning of the season, you might have something at least to stream. If he's not closing, then he's an easy drop and you move on to the next person.
That's a yikes. Just avoid Minnesota, apparently. Okay. Are we avoiding the Athletics? Justin Sterner, Hogan Harris, Mark Leiter Jr., Scott Barlow, Michael Kelly, Elvis Alvarado. I mean, this is a total mess. I was in a DC this year at the 15-team 50-rounder, and I don't know, maybe it was like the 35th round where we first took an athletics reliever. I mean,
that would make sense.
yeah, I mean, I'm not drafting anybody. I think we took a shot on like Hogan Harris in the last, what the hell, the last pick in our one of our OLACs, which I'm sure we're going to drop Hogan Harris in 10 seconds. But
his velocity is up this spring. He's actually looked okay.
Well, that's why we took him. But
there's a whole lot. Yeah, they've been sharing them. I'm curious to see because there's a couple of guys they might have to keep around because I know they don't want to drop people. So
and Hogan Harris is a lefty, so that's
yes, that helps him in that regard.
One of two lefties in the bullpen there. They have two lefties in the bullpen.
So I added
old friend
a guy,
Scott Barlow. Is he going to sneak up again?
I don't really love Barlow. Luis Medina, because he doesn't have any minor league options left. He's coming back from injury. He did hit 95 in his first outing. He hasn't pitched since 2024. I think he could be somebody if they streamline him into one-inning outings, might be able to do something. Or if Jack Perkins doesn't make the rotation, I think one of those two guys could be a sleeper here. But again, it's, Justice Sterner had a really good end of the season, but he only throws like 92 miles an hour. He's not like a traditional closer kind of a thing. And I know guys like Melanson succeeded in the past. I just don't know that Sterner can avoid enough bats to survive being the primary save share in that situation. Leiter Jr. has some experience. He's probably going to get a handful like he projected him for. If I was doing anything in here, I'd be trying to hope Perkins or Medina ends up getting some chances by like May or June.
Okay, so this is an avoid.
An avoid.
Yes.
Okay, we mentioned it earlier about Josh Hader, which you're off of. I'm off of too. I mean, I've been drafting Brian Abreu in leagues over the past 2 years just for good ratios and stuff. And, I was rewarded last year in the second half when Brian Abreu took the reins as the closer. Right now I've got Hader at 27 saves, Abreu at 9. Should we be doing it close to even here, or should we be what are you projecting for the save share here?
Let's see. Let me pull that up here. I have now the stuff with Haters every day that goes by here is we have to. I'm worried about the total innings and the strikeouts. I have Hader at 23 and I have Abreu at 13.
Okay, so a few more.
That's of today. Now, that's based on Hader gets a bullpen in next week, doesn't have a setback. Anytime there's a setback, we're going to keep shifting those numbers.
And you got to watch the velocity. Got to watch where his velocity sits. That's very important with him.
What round do you say, you know what, let's take Hader?
Are you taking Abreu too?
Let's just say it's Hader or not. Oh my God, Hader's available in the 15th round. How can you not shoot that dart?
In a 15-teamer,
and as your top closer?
I can justify it.
He can be your top closer.
No, he wouldn't be your top closer then.
He won't. Yeah, if he's my second closer in round 15 in a redraft, okay. I guess you can take that chance.
12th round.
Probably not. I'm gonna get a starter or a hitter.
Okay.
I agree.
And Brian Abreu. I mean, we took Brian Abreu for $2 in an auction before any Hader kept going down, and $2 is a steal.
That price is gone. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think even like a $4, $5, $6 Abreu is actually a very good dart.
It is, but I think his AAV is even higher, and even his median in the NFBCs over the last month.
Ooh, you mentioned median. Are you getting this from me?
Yeah, you tweeted that out.
Yes, I've been advocating that we do medians, not averages, when you're talking about auctions, because all it takes is one stupid guy who's got $20 left over, and he goes $20 on some stupid guy at the end, and everyone thinks, wow, everyone really wants this guy? It should be median. That would flush that out. All right.
Yep.
That's my rant on median, but I'm glad it's catching on, Greg. I'm glad it's catching on.
I pay attention. Yep.
There you go. All right, Angels. Okay, I'm going. Let's go around the room, and let's see who will who who will have the most saves by the end of the year. Ruvain, you start.
I'm going to say Kirby Yates, just because they seem to like old closers, and Robert Stevenson is not fully healthy yet, so I'm not really on him. Drew Pomerantz, I trust him as much as I trust anybody who's a position player pitching. Jordan Romano, also I saw him pitch live last year, and I can't believe he's still pitching. Brent Suter actually would be interesting to me, but he's getting up there in age also, and he's a lefty, so I'm not thrilled. So I guess I'm going to go with Kirby Yates.
Any Ben Joyce fans? I mean, if he comes back sooner,
Yeah, I was going to say Joyce.
Yeah,
Only because he'll probably take over in like June and then get as much as he can through the end of the season. Because
Yeah.
they're not going to rush him. So he's not going to be, I doubt he's going to be ready opening day just because they're not going to push him in there. Again, the concern with Joyce is can he handle back to back outings and how you use them. But I still think you could squeeze out 10 to 12 saves from June forward with him. The hard part is in an NFBC league and you only have 7 bench spots, can you sit on him for 2 months?
no,
I don't
you
know.
can't. That you
But
can't.
if you're getting good news and you want to add him in May, then you can do so. I think he's easier to take in a draft and hold or a league that has IL stashes. However, I agree with Ruvain. Every time I was reading, there's been like an article a day recently by all the Angels beat writers because the easiest thing to write about is who's going to be the closer. So it's just free money. The quotes seem to say that he's looking at Yates and Romano at the beginning of the year, and they're kind of waiting for Joyce. And they kind of see Stevenson as, I think, more of a primary setup guy, which is unfortunate for him, but he just can't stay healthy.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it really is. The answer is Ben Joyce, pending him coming back, on time and being able to throw a little bit more than just the one outing every 4 days.
Yes.
But it's Ben Joyce. No question, the skills are there. And it's interesting because right now, according to ATC, Robert Stevenson by a hair leads the save share, but I mean it's low. We're talking about like 9 point something. But yeah.
It could be a perfect bridge. Like if you want to do a Yates Joyce combo, you can, and then you just have the one, and then when he's done, you move on to the other.
Better for draft and hold because in NFBC you can't take Joyce. You can't
Correct.
sit on him for 2 months.
And do you think anyone in Angels bullpen will have more than 16 saves this year?
More than 16? No, I projected
No,
Joyce for
no way.
12.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Seattle. Andres Munoz is the guy. Matt Brash has some good skills. They have also imported Jose Ferrer to shore up the bullpen. It's a good bullpen, by the way. But I think there's no reason not to say Munoz, circle of trust. He's a top 6 closer, let's say, and it's him, nobody else worth drafting.
I
Yes.
agree with that. Yes.
Okay. On to Texas. Tricky here. Robert Garcia, maybe the first shot. Is it Chris Martin? Is it Alexis Diaz, who's got closing experience? What say you, Greg, about Texas bullpen?
This is another one that I'm probably not going to be too invested in. Garcia, when you watch him, he has the skills. And then last year, if you look at his in-save situational splits, his whip was inflated, his ERA was inflated. I don't know if he's just trying too hard and then his fastball flattens out and he becomes hittable. But in non-safe situations, he was like lights out. I don't know if it's mental. He says it was a learning experience and he wants to do it again. Martin's going to be 40. Diaz is throwing at 93. He needs to be at 95 or higher to be effective. I think this is an avoid until you see if one of the young guns like Emilio Teatro or Carter Baumler or somebody of that ilk can emerge, just like that same timeline we're talking with Joyce with June or forward. But they're going to have to do something if they can't happen. They're even saying if Jacob Latz doesn't get into the rotation, that he might end up being a leverage option as well. There's just too many pieces at play here for me.
Anything else?
Yeah, Jacob Latch is a lefty though. I mean, they have a bunch of lefties. I mean, Garcia's a lefty. They have Tyler Alexander there as a lefty. So, if you had a choice, I mean, Robert Garcia is the quote unquote proven lefty as a closer, not Jacob Latch. But you never know because aren't the Texas Rangers quote unquote going for it? I mean, they made a trade for
Supposedly.
Mackenzie Gore. So
Yeah.
I mean, this is a possible team that could probably pick up a closer at the trade deadline.
They, it's very possible, yes. They didn't last year, which I was shocked by, but yes.
Okay, on to the NL East. So the Atlanta Braves, interesting situation. I've heard some people say avoid Iglesias. It's going to be Suarez. You know, Iglesias is only signed for this year. Suarez is signed for multiple years. Suarez had quite a lot of saves last year. Iglesias, had problems in the middle of the year, was given the role, taken out, given back. Who knows? I guess Iglesias I would think, would get more saves than Suarez. Probably both are rosterable, to be honest with you. How worried are you about Iglesias, Greg?
It's hard because I've been a proponent for Rizal through the years. I think the difference this year is he can't have another if he has a rough patch like he did last year when he gave up that batch of 6 home runs in that short stretch and they removed him from save opportunities. This year they have a viable replacement, whereas last year they did not. So I think that's where people's worries on Suarez usurping him take hold. So, Rizal, I think, will open in a role, but we do have a new manager. It's not Snicker anymore. It's Walt Weiss. So I think the runway is shorter with a new manager, and I think that team's going to be under a lot of pressure with all the injuries they've been undergoing, so they can't afford to get off to a slow start.
And Raisel Iglesias, his velocity for his fastball is down a tick already this spring, so that's also something to watch because of the age and everything.
Yes. I mean, Suarez is no spring chicken.
No,
Right.
no. Oh, he's a year younger. So that counts.
He does have less mileage on the arm, but yes.
Yes.
I'm trying not to draft Iglesias. I did take him in one league in a draft and hold, but it just makes me nervous. I do have Robert Suarez in a league or two as well, and just good skills. And he's above replacement to me. You can draft him. It's sort of like the Brian Abreu from last year, right?
Yes.
By the way, you mentioned Walt Weiss. Name a team associated with Walt Weiss. Go.
Colorado Rockies.
Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, same here.
A's.
Although he came up with the Oakland Athletics, I remember
A's.
I remember having his
yeah.
baseball card, his rated rookie baseball card. I remember that.
Well, that's why I asked the question. I wanted to see what your association was, and I was
Colorado.
a Rockies fan for a brief
Rockies.
time. So hey, I associate him also with the Rockies, which is actually cool. By the way, I used to love Dante Bichette when he was on the Rockies, and his son's now on the Mets. So how awesome is it? I have some friends, because when I was in elementary school, I was into the Rockies as well, and they remember that. And all of a sudden, I got messages from old guys from my 8th grade class. Hey, Bo Bichette, it's Dante's son. He's on your Mets again. Wow, it's all come full circle. So that's awesome. All right.
Yep.
Miami Marlins. They've signed Peter Fairbanks. I don't know. Fairbanks has had health issues. Who the heck knows? I've heard reports that they're going to give some time to Fauché. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Calvin Fauché? Fauché. I feel like Peter Fairbanks is going to get 20-plus saves, but will not get 27-plus saves. Worth drafting, but, again, you're going to get others getting some chances. Is that your opinion?
Yeah, he's in that Hoffman tier, but yeah, he's not going to get 30 saves. But if you're drafting him, planning on getting like 22 to 25, then you're fine.
We're in agreement.
Unless he gets traded.
Is he not getting those 30 saves because of the team he's on or because of the bullpen that he's in?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Okay, let's go to Ruvain first for our New York Mets. We've, for some reason, did not offer more money to Edwin Diaz. I don't know why. You're laughing there, but it's not funny for us Mets fans here. The trumpets go silent at Citi Field.
He said he didn't want to come back. That's why.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the money.
So, maybe we would have taken a fourth
The
year.
irony is his brothers told him how much he loved working with the Dodgers staff, and that's part of the reason he went there.
Yep.
Right. Well, we've signed from the Yankees Devin Williams, Luke Weaver. I feel like the Mets keep signing all the Yankees guys. I mean, Clay Holmes last year, and we had Luis Severino sign. I don't know. But anyways, Devin Williams, projected closer, I would say Luke Weaver, projected eighth inning guy or high leverage guy. You do have AJ Minter, who's going to be a key lefty for them. I mean, I'm putting my money on Devin Williams. I think he returns to form or has the best shot. Roughly 30 saves, something like that. And right now, I think he is in the circle of trust.
Yeah, I actually took him in the 4th round of the TGFBI.
Okay.
Yes, and he is. I think he's trying to bring back the slider like a slurve type slider or something like that. He hasn't thrown in a couple of years.
Yeah. He tried that cutter, and the first pitch was a home run. But yeah, he's going to be fine. Yeah.
It's what you do in spring training. You're trying out new things.
Lowers his price.
There's nothing to be. The New York media blew it out of proportion because it's the New York media. You're saying, he gave up a home run on the first pitch, and then, by the way, his next outing he struck out the side. So they failed to mention that part, but that's just the way the media works. But I think he is definitely the guy. I think it would have to be a real complete breakdown for Luke Weir to be the closer for the Mets.
I think he'll be comfortable with Stearns. I think Stearns trusts him. I think that will help him do better and rebound this year. His underlying data was not bad last year.
I took Williams in a draft and hold, and then I secured him with Luke Weaver somewhere in the end. So I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, we're going to do a really, really fast one here. Phillies, Johan Duran, that's it. Draft and move on.
Death to the floating closer. Thank you, Johan.
That's it.
Yep.
Circle of Trust, top 5 closer. That's it.
Yes, done.
Washington, Clayton Beater, Cole Henry. I'm not going anywhere near this, but you have any thoughts, Greg?
Yeah, there's a lot of people kind of like talking up Beater. He has velocity, but his K minus BB, when you look at his pitch splits on Fangraphs, when you go to that page, he had a negative K minus BB percentage with his fastball last year. Negative, not like 0, not like 5. I think it was -3. So
Ouch.
that means that's not good. So if his fastball is all over the place and they can start sitting on his slider, he's going to struggle. I'm not sold that this is just a Beater runaway train. I don't know. I could be wrong. This bullpen doesn't give me a warm fuzzy. Not to mention Mark Zuckerman on his Substack after he got let go by the Washington Post intimated in a discussion that he felt that this bullpen was going to be matchup based and fluid, not necessarily a structured closer type bullpen. So I think anybody could be in play here. I think Sionel Perez could be in play. I think Drew Smith could be in play. I think anybody that's getting whiffs and throwing strikes could be in play. So I don't know. It might take a month for this to even become settled into what the roles are going to be. Again, this is a very analytical first-year manager coming over from the Rays organization. So saying that there's going to be a closer to me is very risky. Could Beater do okay? Sure, but I'm going to take the under on 15 saves.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah, the one guy I could think of, maybe Cole Henry, because he's like one of the few homegrown guys in their bullpen.
Yeah, he had a rough finish last year, so that kind of he's been okay this spring. That's one of the bullpens I've been tracking very closely, multiple arms. So again, I look at strike percentage, swinging strike rate, and just taking my notes on K to BB. Just to see what they're doing. So actually, I don't have that tab open. Give me 1 second. And right here, spring leverage ladders. And I'll get you out to Washington. So right now, Clayton Beater is throwing strikes 61.3% of the time through his first 3 outings. A 4-3 K to BB, 1.67 whip, 12.9 swinging strike rate. Cole Henry, 3 outings. He's got a 63.3, so only 2% higher on strike percentage, 12.2 swinging strike, but a 4-1 K to BB and a .33 whip. So, I want my potential closer to have a lower whip with a good K to BB. So right now it's only 3 appearances in spring, but Henry would be slightly ahead just based on those results. But again, I don't make those decisions, but it's something we got to follow.
His usage for the cutter is up a little bit also. I think he wants to try to use that more as well, which is interesting because that's perfect for a closer.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the Cubs. I think this guy is very undervalued. Daniel Palencia, He had a 28% strikeout last year, 21% K minus BB. Did not seem lucky at all. I mean, he had 22 saves. I mean, the Cubs were comfortable with him. Could he be an elite closer? Yeah, he could be. Could he be just a guy who gets all the saves in the Cubs? Yeah, he could be. I think that he's going after the first tier, and I think that he's actually very interesting. I have not drafted him yet. I want
he's
to.
pushed up. He's sitting around 103 right now.
Okay, so he's been pushed up lately, but I don't know. I think he's maybe even more interesting than maybe even Bednar or Chapman potentially. What do you think?
My only concern with him is the contact rates. He gives up a lot of contact. So we just have to see how that settles in as the season progresses.
But he's also playing. He's also pitching in the NL Central, which also helps.
Yes. So I mean, I'm splitting hairs. I'm just saying that's my area of concern with him. Just how hitters are going to adjust to him after seeing him for a full season. If he's giving up contact, like you saw the other day in WBC, he gave up 3 hits in his outing. And again, it's a WBC scrimmage. I get it. But at the same token, I just want to monitor that. He has council's vote of confidence. So you take that and run with it, and he can get you strikeouts. That I'm just saying, just monitor the contact.
Okay, Cincinnati, Emilio Pagan. We know he can do it. Is he going to this year?
He put egg on my face last year, so yeah, I did not see that coming.
And this year?
I don't know. I mean, there's enough things under the hood. I guess you just have to make sure what his BABIP looks like with his pitches. Like, splitter BABIPs can be all over the place, and that's one of his best pitches. So, again, I'm not worried about today him giving up 3 home runs in a silo out in Arizona, but he has Terry Francona is very stable, and he's got his trust. So he's going to give him plenty of leash.
But his velocity is down a little bit ready to start the spring, which is something to watch for. And Tony Santillan, I think that's how it's pronounced. He looked good last year.
Yeah, the beat writers have been doing a good job. They said because the Reds used both of them so heavy last year, they've been kind of really slow playing them this spring. So I think that's why neither one of them is really maxing out. They're just going through the motions to get to the season. So, a lot of closers don't go full tilt in spring. So I get it. It's just a matter of, not everybody's going to be Mason Miller coming out throwing 102 on day one.
Okay.
Got it.
Next bullpen, Milwaukee. A little bit controversial here. We've seen people draft Trevor McGill. We've seen people draft Abner Uribe. Who are you drafting from the two?
If I had to draft one of the two, I'm going to take Uribe.
Okay, why?
But you have to be patient because at the end of the season, he was getting preferential. Now, I know McGill was coming back from injury. I totally understand. But if McGill was Murphy's closer, then in the first interview this year, he says, hey, McGill was my closer till he got hurt. He's still my closer. Instead, Murphy said everybody's fighting for jobs in the bullpen. So if McGill was his guy, I would like to think that the manager would say, yeah, he's my guy still. Don't worry about what happened in September. McGill's the dude. Now, I think Milwaukee's still trying to possibly trade him. So I think that's just something to monitor. If the hater thing's more serious than we think, then maybe Houston might try and trade for somebody to help out Abreu, who's a free agent at the end of the season. McGill will be under contract, still under team control next year. There's pathways for both end up closing games. It's just I would prefer Murphy to come out and say McGill's my guy. That's why I would say Uribe in this gun to my head scenario.
Are both worth drafting?
In that case, I don't know. If McGill's traded, sure. If McGill's not traded, it can end up being a mess, and I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Uribe here because of the fact McGill was in so many trade rumors, especially for the Mets. The Mets almost got him a couple of times. It seems like when they were trying to make that trade. So I really think that it's because he was almost 1 foot out the door. I think Abner Uribe is the guy.
The Mets have his brother, Tylor McGill, who actually I went to a AAA game right before he went for surgery, and I saw his last start there. He won that game, actually. By the way, Greg, you
Is
mentioned
that
that
when
it
you
was.
came to Syracuse and didn't call me?
Sorry, man.
Yeah,
I
it's
I,
okay. I'll remember.
I did not actually go to Syracuse, but Syracuse. So I was. I mean, I went to a game in Rochester. I went to a game in Binghamton, and then I
That's an
went
hour down
to.
the road, man.
I know, and I went to Scranton where we saw Syracuse play. I know that we had Sky came actually
Oh, Sky came. Sky lives 2 blocks from me. That's interesting.
he
I guess we're done talking tonight.
he came to Binghamton to watch the game with us, and I don't know. Sorry for the non-invite. Obviously,
It's
you're
okay.
part
I'll do a
you're
quick side story. I went to Binghamton years ago. I took my son down there. He wanted to see Vlad Jr. So in that same game, we saw Vlad Jr., Bo Bichette, and Pete Alonso. And Alonso hit a home run off of the right centered fence, hit a blast out of there. And I was like, who's this Alonso guy? Funny story. Like I said, we went to watch Vlad Jr. and I was like, oh, look at this Alonso
Yeah.
kid.
I think he went by Peter back then. It wasn't Pete.
Yeah, it was It was a while ago, but that was a fun game. My son and I still talk about that.
Well, let's catch a game this summer.
We'll try.
Yes, I'll come up to Syracuse for you. Um, I was gonna say, you mentioned a lot. Some of your news is, hey, I listened to the manager. How much does that factor into your analysis, where you actually
Well,
look at quotes?
It's part of it. I mean, you would like to think they're telling you the truth, and that's why when Ruvain was saying his thing about Yates is like Suzuki's like, well, it's nice having a guy back there that's done it before. So, you know, sometimes they will say stuff without saying stuff. And sometimes there are managers that will lie to you. So it's just, you take it with a grain of salt. I'm just trying to absorb as much as I can. I listen to the managers, I read what the beat writers say, but nothing is gospel. You just take it as bits of information and you try and make your best decision as you gather all that information together.
All right, let's move on to Pittsburgh. Dennis Santana, who was the guy in the end of the season. I guess there's no reason to think why it wouldn't be. He's not as good as some of the other top closers, but he does have the role currently. What's your feeling on drafting Dennis Santana?
Same thing. You're just taking him for what you feel is security in a role.
Right. So basically a low end number 2 type closer.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he pitched for how many teams last year? For the last 2 years, he's been all over the place.
No, well, after the Yankees let go of him, he kind of settled into Pittsburgh. Like his numbers with Pittsburgh are very good. I don't know if it's just the ballpark or comfort funk. That's where Chapman turned things around too. They're not a perfect organization, but they've done well taking relievers off of the scrap heap and getting the best out of them.
All right, moving on to St. Louis Cardinals. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but Riley O'Brien, JoJo Romero, Matt Swanson, I guess, sort of a mess. Are any of these guys draftable in a 12-team mixed league?
For me, no, but people are still taking O'Brien. He's supposed to make his first spring appearance on Saturday after his calf issue, so I'll be watching that closely.
I guess wait and see there. Otherwise, just stay away.
Yes.
I don't mind Swanson, like I said, but it might take like a month or two. So I don't think you want to draft him, but if anything changes or I'm combining people now. If O'Brien starts the year on the injured list, then all of a sudden he gets a lot more interesting.
Okay, on to our final division, the NL West. Arizona seems like a mess. There's Justin Martinez and A.J. Puck who are injured, who may be higher priority if they come back. Then there's Ginkel. They somehow imported Paul Sewald to come back again. I mean, it's another situation where I was in round 40 of the draft and hold, and nobody took an Arizona Diamondback. Who you're throwing your if you had to throw a dart, who you're throwing it at?
I guess you can try and start the year with Ginkel, and then once Puck's trending, it sounds like Puck's going to be back by about June, then you can just drop him and move on.
The thing is, we've been saying Ginkel for like the past, it feels like the last 3 years.
I know.
That he's...
We keep trying to push him in there, and then he gets hurt or implodes, but Sewald and Thompson aren't it either. I mean, I know Dre Jameson has the stuff. They just keep pitching him against minor leaguers. I'd like to see what he does against major league hitters as a reliever. That would be curious. Now, Jameson's like a wild card in this, but again, the other day he had this like great outing with 5 whiffs, and I looked up the guys; they're all in Double A. So, that's not really a fair fight. So, can Jameson do it against major league guys is what we want to find out in the next couple of weeks. And if he does, then he might be able to sneak in there and grab a few. So that's where we are there.
Currently, Ginkel's the clubhouse leader with 3 saves from last year. Everyone else has 2 or below. So,
yeah,
that's how sad it is.
Yes, it is.
Okie dokie. All right, Colorado. I mean, they're not going to win many games this year, as it is. Victor Vodnik, Seth Halverson. Oh, boy. We just staying away from this also?
I mean, again, I know it's spring, but both those guys have a whip, I think, above 4 right now.
Is that good for a Rockies pitcher?
A whip above 4? No, even for a Rocky, that's bad. I'm going to put a curious name out there. I don't know if you watched their scrimmage against Team USA the other day, but Zach Agnos had a clean inning against the heart of the Team USA lineup. He retired Schwarber, Judge, and Harper, 2 of them by strikeout. That's pretty good for any reliever, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Now, Agnos had a little run last year, and then he got hurt, and then he got a little wild. To me, he might have the best stuff in that bullpen. So in round 50, a dart on Zach Agnos might get you a few saves. I'm very curious because I used to be a Halverson guy, but he had a rough start. Now again, he got shut down last year. I'm just not a Vodnik person. I just don't trust him to be the closer at the end of the season. It would not surprise me if it was Vodnik versus the field in that bullpen. I would take the field for the save leader.
And Agnos has averaged a K per 9 of over 10 in every stop in the minors, so that's interesting.
Yeah, he's pretty good. So if he can stay healthy, and last year was kind of like a learning curve, I think he could be sneaky. Now again, sneaky for a Rockies reliever doesn't mean you're getting the best of everything, but he's not going to be a Daniel Bard. But I think he is very interesting to monitor and somebody that you could stream in the right situations. The hardest thing about the Rockies is they usually win home games, and that's the time you want to use their relievers the least. But you have to take what you can get in this season of closers all over the place.
All right, Zach Agnos, very good name to know for a deep, deep pick. Maybe even in a mono league, you never know.
Yes.
Okay.
Mono league especially.
Yes. All right, the Dodgers. Well, thanks. You've signed our Edwin Diaz. I mean, I've been drafting him in almost every single league I can. I'm just paying up. He's just the guy. I trust him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's it, right? I know we got Tanner Scott, Alex Vesia, Trinan, good bullpen, but I have to imagine they're not playing matchups with Diaz. He's getting the 9th.
No, and the nice thing is that he really won't have to. He won't have to log multiple inning outings like he did for the Mets last year because that bullpen was so beleaguered. They really pushed him. So, the Dodgers can manage his outings, maximize his outings. Tanner Scott can step in there and get a save when Edwin needs a break. So, yes, Edwin's going to be rock solid out there. Nothing to worry about.
Where's Jared Kelenic when you need him?
Okay, San Diego. Looks like Mason Miller, who's got 100-mile-an-hour stuff. Excellent. I always worry that he's going to blow his arm out because he throws just that hard.
He could.
And that's a fear. The one thing I'll say is that Jeremiah Estrada has a tremendous strikeout rate, and I'm interested in him whether he closes or not. Just great
very
strikeout.
Good reliever.
I mean, he might have 100 strikeouts as a number 2 reliever in San Diego. That's worthwhile, and yet he's free, pretty much free.
Yeah, and now they're saying Jason Adam might be ready for opening day, which makes that bullpen even better.
Wow.
So San Diego's going to shorten games if they can. That's part of the way that they found success last year, and I think they're going to try and do it again. I don't think Adrian Morejon can win that many games again, but there's still value in that bullpen.
Are you reading my injury notes here? Because that's one of the guys I was going to mention, that he said he's absolutely ready to being ready for opening day, and the Padres are actually on board. The medical staff is quote-unquote on board with it, which is very interesting.
Yep.
Who do you prefer, Miller or Diaz for the top closer?
I rank Miller higher, but that's because of the strikeouts. Like I said, the Dodgers are going to Edwin Diaz doesn't have to do multiple innings again, so I think his strikeout rate's going to tick down just a smidge. So
Right.
I think Diaz can get more saves, but I think Miller's strikeout rate just gives him a little more value in roto.
Right. All right, and finally, down to the NL West. I've drafted Ryan Walker in a couple of leagues, not because he's so great, but just the rest of the
Because
bullpen
everybody else
sucks.
stinks?
Yeah, everybody else stinks. Giants, they're beefing up a little bit, and it's not that he's had some experience. I just find myself, and the price on Walker is actually good now. I'm getting him late in drafts. I'm getting him cheap auction. Am I wrong to draft him?
No, he's a rodeo. You stay on the bull till he knocks you off, and then if he does, then you dust yourself off and go get somebody to replace him. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong. I think somebody, I know they've got Foley might return by mid-season. I've never been a big Foley guy, but he could do well because he gets a bunch of ground balls. Caleb Killian's been somebody I've been trying to watch a little bit this spring. They're converting him into a reliever. He's been doing very well, but again, he's facing low competition. If Killian can start getting more whiffs, his velocity is ticked up. I think he can end up being a capable setup reliever, and then we would have to see if more would develop down the road. I would never say he's capable of taking over a closer because he's not, but he's just an interesting name to watch. And if Carson Seymour cuts down the 1 inning outings, he might be okay. Like I watched his outing yesterday. The first inning he looked great, then the second inning got blown up, and I think that's kind of been the way it is. So if they made him a more traditional reliever, it could work out too. But yeah, Ryan Walker's like the best of the worst. So hopefully the mechanical things he said he fixed comes true, and he can regain some of his past form. But he's like Garcia. His in-save splits last year were an abomination. He was terrible in save situations. His whip was awful.
Is there any reason to throw a dart for Gregory Santos in this bullpen, or not really?
I want to believe in Santos. Just I don't know. I can't trust the health. I mean, we remember we were all on him with the White Sox, like, oh my God, closer of the future, and then things kind of went off the rails when he got traded to Seattle. There's a chance he could develop. I just don't know if he has the DNA to stay healthy. I know it's hard to say things like that, but some guys can stay healthy and some guys can't.
Any other pitchers, deep, people we didn't talk about yet worth noting?
I can't give everything away. I gotta get people to subscribe. I think we've highlighted a lot of the people that I like more than maybe my peers. There's so many volatile situations and people are going to emerge. I mean, we've hit on a few of those bullpens. It's just going to be a matter of, I've always been I always thought Justin Lawrence when he got to Pittsburgh could be good. So if Santana struggles, he might be somebody that moves up the pecking order. Everybody wanted Mason Montgomery to be the closer of the future for the Rays last year, and Clevenger was kind of that guy. I mean, Garrett Clevenger is a very good reliever. In a Souls league, he's fantastic. And even in saves-only leagues, like I said, there's weeks you're going to be able to stream him in and out and get value out of him. So, we've touched on a bunch of deep guys. I'm curious if Palencia runs into any trouble, how Hunter Harvey could do. It's going to be fun, but it's going to be like I said, I anticipate a very busy season. And don't be surprised because there could be a guy that gets cut, some of these NRIs, that if he doesn't make the roster, a team like the A's or the Nationals could grab somebody that gets cut from another team, and they can end up being in the leverage situations for them. So we're far from finished with people moving around on rosters.
Do have to ask you about the Mets' Robert Stock. What do you think of him?
He's a really cool guy. I'm curious because last year he tried to come back with the Red Sox, and every time you started to believe in him, then he would implode. But he's been having really good outings in the WBC too. The scrimmage the other day, I think he had 3 shutout innings. I think he could be like a guy that you use for multiple inning outings and then, see what happens from there. It's just a matter of where he ends up too.
All right. Ruvain, I know we've talked some of the injuries, but what's the rest of the injury report?
Yeah, let me throw a couple other out there. 'Cause we mentioned Felix Bautista. He is coming back from a torn labrum and rotator cuff. He had surgery last August. It's usually a 12-month recovery time period. So, like you mentioned earlier, probably looking at August, maybe September, if anything. We just mentioned about Jason Adams, and we mentioned about Edwin Ucita before. Andrew Kittredge, we mentioned him as well. He's going to the IL with a shoulder injury. He's been battling shoulder inflammation, and right now, manager Craig Albanese has said that it's a low probability that he'll be ready for opening day.
All right. Well, this was a fantastic show. A lot of information. We got through the entire major leagues. And I think it's important for anybody who plays in leagues that have saves and needs relief pitchers that you know about the bullpens. And again, thank you so much, Greg, for coming on the show. Why don't you just tell everyone again where we can see all your great work?
Yep. Like I said, once the season gets rolling, we do stuff daily at Closer Monkey. You can sign up for the Substack daily emails if you want, but it's really just a link back to the site. But people like those little emails they get to give them their guide. Reliever Recon is the same price right now. I mean, with our economy, if you go to a Dunkin' Donuts, you're probably paying around $5 for a cup of coffee. Why not get all of my information I give about relievers for that same price in a month? That's what we do there. So people are starting to come back, and that's ramping up. And then I have a once a week column at The Athletic. It's usually on Wednesdays or Thursdays. I got 2 more previews coming up. I just posted the top 75 solds on that the other day. And of course, with the Kittredge injury and other things, that's already been extinct, but that's life covering closers and relievers. I publish something, and like 2 days later, it's already blown up.
All right, Ruvain, what about you?
You can follow me on Twitter X at MLB Injury Guru, where I tweet injury updates as they come. And you can follow me in season on Rotoballer.
And I'm Ariel Cohen. I'm over on Twitter at ATCNY. I'm on Fangraphs, Rotoballer. ATC projections are up everywhere. And, of course, the Beat the Shift podcast, which you can hear right here. Well, that is it for our previews of all the positions. We've done that since January. We've got the auction strategy show. We will be off next week. I'm going out to Tout Wars, so won't be producing a show next week, although I will be on some other podcasts and stuff, and you can take listen to me elsewhere as well. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Again, thank you so much for listening to us throughout the whole draft season, and you can listen back and hear all the undervalued players. We got great guests who have come on and great strategies. So please check those out. And again, thank you so much to tonight's guest, Greg Jewett, who took us through all of the Major League bullpens. All right, thank you so much from Beat the Shift here, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Beat the Shift podcast presented by Fangraphs. Follow us on Twitter at beat_shift_pod.